up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about the biggest sporting event in America this weekend. Mario Bautista versus Vinicius Oliviera. I know, I fooled y'all thinking we were going to talk about the Super Bowl. No, we are talking about the Apex Fight Night tomorrow night in the Apex. Ugh. For anyone new to the UFC, anyone who tuned in for UFC 324 and 325, and those were your first events, this is a fight night and something called the Apex. If you don't want to hear any of this, I'll leave a timer up to skip to the prelims, and I'll also put a timer up to skip to the main card. So, bang. For anybody new, the Apex is the independently owned arena by the UFC. It's where they originally used to film The Ultimate Fighter and Dana White's Contender Series, but now sometimes we have fight nights there starting after COVID because there's no fans, so the only people that are in there are coaches, fighters, and mainly just commentators. So has a bit of a different atmosphere. So yeah, and then I'm not going to explain what a fight night is because I just don't feel like doing that, but we'll get started now with the prelims down at the bottom. Let me get my notes. I'm not quite sure how to say it, but say her last name, but I'm calling Priscilla by a decision. You know, sometimes you see these people, these veteran fighters, you know, Priscilla, whatever that is, fought Valentina Shevchenko. She's fought a lot of other high-level female bantamweights. And, you know, it's just hard to look at that and look at that, you know, what she's done and not be able to see her game planning or just coming in with a better strategy than Claudia Segula, who's 0-1 in the UFC. So, yeah, we're going with Priscilla. And because looking at her, she reminds me of like a methed out 135-pound Yuri Prohaska. So we're going with her. Muin Gafarov versus Jacob Wiklax. I think that's how you say it. I wrote this before finding out, but Muin is weighed in 5 pounds overweight. So I think the bout's still going on. I think this is absolutely going his direction now. I already said, you know, because he's on a 2-fight decision win streak, and, you know, he doesn't have that bad of losses. You know, one of his only UFC losses is Saeed Nurmagomedov, which is a borderline just outside the rankings guy, but also against Jacob Wiklax, I refuse to bet on a guy that went to a fucking decision with Patchy Mix. You know, went to a split decision with Patchy Mix, meaning he almost lost to Patchy Mix, who's one of the worst fighters in the UFC. But yeah, Wiklax got taken down 5 times in his last fight against Patchy Mix, and I think he gets subbed here, especially with Muin Gafarov having so much more control, weighing in almost 140 pounds, you know, pre-rehydration. So I think he kind of just absolutely laying praise holds Wiklax down on this one. Next up, we have Wang Kong versus Eduarda Moira. They're calling a Wang Tong on the last commentary set for her last fight, but I think I'm going to say Kong. You know, we're going with Eduarda Moira on this one. I think Wang Kong's kind of a decision merchant, and, you know, you're supposed to highlight your finishing ability before you get to the UFC, before you get to this high level. And to have so many of her fights go to a decision pre-UFC level, I think it's just kind of a bad look, you know? So, as much as it pains me to have to bet against a Chinese female MMA fighter, because I love Zhang Weili, I love the other one, that's a doctor, I don't remember her name right now, but as much as it pains me to do, we are going to bet against her in this situation. So, next up, we got Javid Basharat. His brother's fighting on this card. But, yeah, he's going up against a guy making his UFC debut. Gianni Vasquez is on a 5-fight win streak coming into the UFC. I think he's going to look good in his debut, but the only unfortunate thing is that he was fighting at flyweight previously, and I think when you fight someone up a weight class in like in your UFC debut, I think there's just so much pressure and so much difference there to kind of the fights he was in before that I kind of just think he gets outsized and outworked in this one by Basharat. So I'm not going to explain this one, and I ask that you guys don't ask any questions for this. But I literally wrote down Ketlin Souza, I got a feeling. So basically, my heart's telling me Ketlin Souza on this one. I'm not really sure why. Obviously, a lot smaller, but I don't know. I'm just getting like David Martinez vibes right now, and I don't know why. She's not even Mexican, and I'm getting David Martinez vibes, but you know, yeah, we're going with Ketlin Souza. Let's just. I'm so tired of the names on this one. I'm having so much trouble today. It's been a really long day for me, but we're gonna go with God, guess I've got to rephrase how I say this. I think Nico Price is gonna find a lot of progress on the feet in this one. I think he's been okay in the UFC so far. Both of these guys kind of struggle in the records, but I think Nico Price will just find more progress on the feet and will find himself to be better on the feet. And maybe not end this one with a KO, but definitely get out of this with a more convincing decision. For this one, I'm taking Daniil Donchenko. I'm riding with him. I think Alex Morano has some great fights, and I think he has some decent losses to very tough competition. This guy's lost to what is it? Gregory Rodriguez. He lost to RoboCop. He lost to Joaquin Buckley, but those are some solid guys to lose to, and I think, I think he's just a guy who is never really going to be in that, upper echelon of welterweights in this situation, and I think I've seen some decent promise from Daniil Donchenko. So, yeah, we're going to ride with Daniil Donchenko on this one. Dustin Jacoby. When you lose to basically only top 15, almost top 10, almost all losses to top 10 light heavyweights, I think this guy could bounce back. I think he's been sort of on the outside looking in for a long time, and I think this is the time where he takes that step over and beats a guy with very few UFC fights under his belt. And I think he gets away with this one. Huge bounce back fight. I think he lands a big shot early, and this one does not see a bell. So, Gene Matsumo versus Farid Bashar. My lord, the fucking names today. Farid Basharat. I'm going with Farid Basharat. I think Gene Matsumoto has done very well against guys with a very simplistic style of striking and grappling, where they're not mixing up the striking at all, or they're kind of just diving in on takedowns and letting him catch that guillotine like he did a couple fights ago. And you know what? I think it's not saying he can't do this in this situation, but I think Farid is going to take this one away just by being more advanced in a lot of different levels that Gene Matsumoto is not. So, I think we're going to see a unanimous decision from Farid. Okay, guess we don't want to load today. That's fine. Just ruin my fucking video. Okay, whatever. We're not going to be able to load that one. For this one, I called Mikhail Oleksiuk over Barrel versus whatever. Fucking can't speak today. I called this one. I think it's going to be a win for Mikhail by one big punch. I think this is going to be one where we don't see all that much action on the feet. until we see one kind of huge strike get thrown, and that'll be the fight. So, honestly, I have hope for this card to be better than most Apex fight nights that we've seen, but I think this is very lacking compared to what we've seen the past 2 weeks and compared to what we are going to see on other cards. Honestly, I might throw in a bit about the White House or just some recent events that we've heard recently, just because this video might be kind of short, just because I don't have a whole lot to say about these, because none of these fights are really something I want to get very into. But yeah. Next up, Jailton Almeida versus Rizvan Kuniev. I think Kuniev's going to win this one. Obviously, we see in his profile, looks a little heavyweight-ish, but he looked good at the weigh-ins, He looked sharp. He looked not like as cut as Jailton Almeida does, but he looked strong. And I think that could be a big factor for him to have good cardio base in this fight, to have, a lot better of a build. Obviously, he popped for PEDs, and I think it was the LFA. So now he's here, so he's dealing with that and dealing with not being on that. And I think that is kind of what lost him that fight against Curtis Blades, is not being in good enough shape, having to defend 15 takedowns. But I think he kind of keeps the takedowns under lock on this one. He defended 13 against Blades. And I do think Jailton Almeida is a good wrestler and is Curtis Blades level in wrestling. But I think Jailton Almeida, kind of once he realizes that you're going to fight back and you're not just going to, tip over or get subbed, that he kind of goes for control and goes for kind of just like a laying on top of you strategy that I don't think he's going to get in this one. I think we're going to see Rizvan Kuniev kind of piece him up on the feet, and we're going to see Jailton Almeida dip into his wrestling bag to try and kind of control this fight and slow it down to a pace that he wants it to be at. But I don't think he gets it there. I think we're going to see a big punch from Rizvan Kuniev, and I think he is going to drop Jailton Almeida 1 or 2 times. And, yeah. I don't know. It's kind of crazy to see someone get Curtis Blades in his first fight, top 4 contender, and then get Jailton Almeida after losing. It's like, all right, kid, we really want you here. Just beat one of them, please. Get rid of these smudge grapplers, please. But next up, my pride and joy, the Gooch, Kyoji Horiguchi. I'm calling it that this fight will be fight of the night because Kyoji Horiguchi is just that exciting of a fighter. And he goes to show how good guys were actually in Demetrius Johnson's era of flyweight. This guy beats Said Nurmagomedov, gets himself ranked, and he is looking to get pushed towards the top of the rankings, looking to get pushed towards a title shot eventually. And now that Pantoja is not champion, Pantoja was his teammate, I think we could see that. But I think Kyoji Horiguchi wins this fight however he damn well pleases. I think he has advantages just about everywhere in this fight. And I think he wins a unanimous decision and fight of the night. I think he's going to piece him up on the ground. Obviously, we saw he was able to get a sub in his last fight against a Nurmagomedov. Or not a Nurmagomedov, but one of Khabib's proteges against flyweight Khabib, basically. And, that was a huge win for him. And I think he does not the exact same to Amir Albazi, because I put respect on Amir Albazi. I did say he was going to go undefeated, or completely defeated, not want to fight this year. But I will put respect on him. He is a good fighter. I just don't think he's Gooch level, because there's only one man that's Gooch level, and that's the man right here. But finally, the main event that no one has been waiting for. Mario Bautista versus Vinicius Oliveira. Let's just get some things out of the way. Yes, I know we all hate Mario Bautista for what he did to Jose Aldo, but once you let go of that and kind of watch the fights, you can see that he's not a bad fighter, and he is capable of having fun, interesting fights. His fight with Patchy Mix, where I know I said I'd never bet on someone who goes to a decision with Patchy Mix, but he kicked Patchy Mix's fucking ass. So, yeah. But then if you look at the Umar fight, he had a good fight with Umar. He dropped Umar at one point, caught him in a pretty tight, I think it was heel hook, damaged Umar badly and kind of affected him in that fight. Even into his next fight, you can still see there's a little bit of damage on that knee. But, and then you have Vinicius Oliveira, who's kind of fluking everyone, kind of not a low skill, but definitely not like the greatest bantamweight prospect we've ever seen. So, heading into that, I think there is the potential for Mario Bautista to get absolutely fluke KO'd in this one and lose this one very quickly, because Vinicius Oliveira does kind of just throw just the wildest shit you've ever seen. But, I think there is the issue of cardio. We saw by the end of the Saeed Nurmagomedov fight, he and Saeed were both fairly tired by the end of round 3. And I think with the style he presents of fighting so wildly, I think there is the chance that he gasses out quickly, and by rounds 4 and 5, he's not the same fighter. You don't have to respect that power as much, and you can kind of, if you're Mario Bautista, work on the ground a little more than you could have earlier in the fight, and not have to worry about, getting something thrown at you on the feet that can absolutely put you out no matter what. So I'm going with Mario Bautista because I think he is going to continue his run as, the decisionator, as, people would refer to him after the Jose Aldo fight. But I think this is a fun fight, and I think we see some fun moments, some good scrambles on the ground. And honestly, I think Mario Bautista is going to do better on the feet than people will expect. And if he wins this one, I have absolutely no issue matching him up with a, maybe not top 5, but just outside of the top 5 contenders, If we're looking for one of these guys that's kind of not quite in the title shot yet, I think he could be a fun guy to throw in there with someone and either get them a bounce back win or, send this guy even further towards the title. So, yeah, we're going to go, no surprise, but Mario Bautista by decision. Just quick little recap, everything we talked about. I picked Bautista to win, but also I'd just like to apologize. I'd planned on getting one or two videos out this week, but life got in the way. Some things happened to me recently, and I just want to say, if anyone's still watching this, y'all are so amazing. Y'all make me so happy, and kind of every moment I get to be making these videos and watching fights and just doing this as a part of my life makes me so much happier as a person. And yeah, if anyone sees this, I love you all so much. That's kind of gay, but y'all are so amazing. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you probably Sunday morning for fight coverage, and we'll talk about everything that happened. So I'll see y'all next time.